Hey everybody, welcome to the Ground Effect podcast, where we dive into the heart of Formula One, bringing you the latest news, insider analysis, and sharing our thoughts on the motorsport we love. So come and join us, G and Mick, as we look forward to what promises to be an exciting 2025 Formula One season. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 1 of the Ground Effect podcast. We've got a big show on today. We're going to go through just our thoughts and opinions relating to the upcoming 2025 Formula One season.
Yes, finally, episode 1. Looking forward to the season ahead. A lot of driver changes, a lot of rookies, a lot of inter-team battles, which I think are going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it definitely sets up for a really exciting year, considering you tend to get these dull years, before, the big regulation changes. And we're seeing the next big regulation change happening for 2026. So I think a really intriguing season ahead, just with some of these big inter-team battles and personnel changes. And I'm really interested to see how some of these rookies perform. I can't think of a season where we've had so many new names on the grid. And I go back a little way, back to the late 80s. So we're just sort of showing our age here.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. Definitely a few drivers under pressure. Teams aren't going to change their cars too much. Some of the lower teams are going to catch up even more.
Performance-wise, I don't think we see too many changes. I mean, we did have a good season last year. I mean, it was good to see McLaren come up, challenge, and we had, multiple race winners. Ferrari won a few.
It'll be pretty much status quo, I think.
Status quo, but with just so much more intrigue with these new drivers and lineups. So speaking of which, excuse me, I'm sitting here buzzing on a lot of sugar. Just ate a block of chocolate. So hopefully I don't get a little bit too hyper. But look, the biggest change, Lewis Hamilton in red. That yellow helmet looks absolutely bonkers in my mind. It looks so awesome.
Yeah, it looks killer.
Look, it's the big story for this year. How's it all going to pan out?
Yeah, interesting one. The whole Charles and Lewis dynamic. We know Charles is Ferrari's golden child. Yes, Lewis is going to bring a wealth of experience coming from a team that's won 8 Constructors' Championships. He's definitely going to help iron out some of those issues with Ferrari, especially on the pit wall. Some of those clowns on the pit wall.
Already in my mind, I can see some of those memes.
Yeah.
Those Ferrari pit wall memes.
So he's definitely going to help the team in that respect. He's under probably a fair bit of pressure to perform straight away.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for him because, I'm not saying he's been comfortable, but he's been in an environment since 2013 at Mercedes. Clearly the number one driver there. Had the team functioning, I believe, how he wanted it to function. We could probably disagree on the last couple of seasons at least. Great motivation for him. I mean, we know he's winding up his career. We know he's gunning for an 8th world championship. Is Ferrari the team to do it with?
I think so. You look at the way they came on at the end of last season. They were definitely the fastest or the second fastest car on the grid, which bodes well for this year because there's not going to be too many changes you wouldn't expect.
Totally agree.
I think could be Charles's year. Lewis, I hope so for him. Gets that fairy tale, joins red, takes him to the Constructors' Championship, wins his 8th.
He wins the 8th and it's a movie script.
Yep.
Absolute movie script.
How does Charles handle coming up against the 8-time world champion?
I don't think he has a problem. I mean, we saw he was fine against Sebastian. He's a lot older now. He's wiser, multiple race winner. He has that team, even with Carlos there last year. In my mind, he was still the number one Ferrari driver. No disrespect to Carlos, but yeah, it was his team brought up through the Ferrari system. So I actually think it's a bit of a blessing in disguise with Hamilton coming in. Yes, there's pressure of performing against Hamilton, but I think just having that the media focus internally is going to be massively on Hamilton. So Charles can just really knuckle down and just focus purely on the driving.
Yeah, he's going to go under the radar. And I'm going to have to correct myself here before somebody else does it for me. Did you notice I said 8-time world champion when I was talking about Lewis?
I mean, look, we could even bring up the 2008 title and the crash gate and Massa.
But so we won't go that far. We won't go that far back right now.
This is the thing with Ferrari. I mean, look, we expect so much more of Ferrari. We've seen them we had the domination of the Michael Schumacher era, and it took Schuey a few seasons to get that team up and running and be world championship material. I mean, he went there in '96, and it wasn't until 2000 that they won the first title, I believe. Might be suffering from a little bit of dementia here. No world champions since Kimi Räikkönen in 2007.
Yep.
You could argue a 22nd world champion with Massa. The following year.
His 22nd World Championship.
We then had the Fernando Alonso era. We then moved on to the Sebastian Vettel era.
You even look, since 2015, it's now 2025, so in the last 10 years, they've come second 6 times, man.
Perennial bridesmaids.
Yeah. So they've got to be due. And I think this is the perfect time. Their car came on really good at the end of last season.
Yep.
So you would imagine they're going to be relatively quick out of the box.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how much focus they put on the season, which I believe they'll put in a lot of focus because of what you just mentioned, the improvements over last season. We know a lot of teams will focus primarily on 2026, but they're definitely in the hunt. And they have one of the top driver lineups. I mean, my only concern is you've got 2 guys there that potentially take points away from each other for the World Drivers' Championship. Obviously good for the team championship, but I don't see any of them, Lewis or Charles, being demoted as a number 2.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Should one, dominate over, say, the first half of the season. Kind of like the McLaren situation from last year with Oscar and Lando.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen.
No. And I think they will probably give Lewis... I mean, he's going to be expected to come straight in and do a job straight away.
Well, I hope so, considering that contract. That's a lot of money and definitely a lot of pressure on him to perform straight away.
Yeah.
And it'll be just very intriguing how he gets that team to rally around him.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to need to do that fairly quickly, you would imagine, because if Charles gets the better of him, Ferrari's golden child, they're probably going to lead more towards Charles. That car should be fast, man. That momentum that they're bringing in from end of last season, there's no reason Lewis can't win a handful of races
100%.
in the first half of the season.
And if he can get it done early, it just relieves that initial pressure.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got a fair bit of pressure, man. You've got the Tifosi.
Yeah, and that media.
and that the Italian media, and then how Ferrari handled the pressure from that.
Because, I mean, the thing is, there is a pressure. We know he's, hasn't got long left in the sport. Yeah, I mean, just if he doesn't really perform alongside Charles early, then we're going to hear about the whole he's washed.
Waste of money,
etc., etc. And people can be very cruel in the sport.
All the ingredients are there.
Yeah.
Like he's brought back Angela. He's got a lot of people around him to sort of give him that familiarity.
Yep, smart move.
You're going into a team where English isn't really the first language.
To be honest, can you imagine Lewis speaking fluent Italian?
Yeah.
Wait for it. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, at some point it will.
Well, what about like Lewis going like Seb Vettel style on the radio after a win? Grazie. Come on, Lewis.
Grazie.
Absolute banger if it happens.
Yeah. And it would be absolutely, in my opinion, for me, it would be amazing to see him on the top step in red after, let's face it, a pretty horrible last couple of seasons at Mercedes.
Yeah, it just seemed like a very demotivated Hamilton the last couple of seasons.
I think the timing's right for the change.
Yep.
He's definitely getting all the love at the moment. I think he kind of needs to feel the love right now. And I mean, he's not silly. He probably knows that's going to change, and he's got a job to do, and he needs to perform off the bat. I mean, from testing. He needs to be there or thereabouts. Yeah,
well, you've already seen a lot of silliness regarding just the latest Pirelli tyre testing and people making a big deal of what the lap times were. And it's just like, these things don't mean anything at the moment. It's just absolute bonkers. We do have tribalistic fans in Formula One.
Exactly right.
And it does make good clickbait, that's for sure. But we're not going to really see much. Even testing, I wouldn't put too much into as far as, driver comparison times. We're going to get it all on that first race weekend down in Melbourne. P3 qualifying, then we're going to start to see where we're really at. Now, Ferrari, big change bringing in Lewis Hamilton. But, I mean, to give up Carlos Sainz is he's a quality driver. I mean, he's a race winner and he moves on to Williams.
And I mean, a cranky Sainz is a good Sainz, man. You saw what he did at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably more dominant than Charles was.
Yep.
In those last few races.
Good move, Williams. Or was that really his only option? I mean, it was a bit of a tough one. There wasn't a lot on the plate for him, but there were rumours of possible Red Bull return.
Red Bull return, off to Mercedes.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Red Bull, you're up against Max. You go to Mercedes, Corporate George is the golden boy. So you're going to go to Williams and you look at someone like Albon and you're like, well, I can beat Albon. I can get that team around me.
Yeah, and he must have at least a lot of optimism around what Williams are trying to achieve. And you do sense, to be honest, like I have this really weird sort of feeling that out of all the sort of mid to back market teams, Williams are going to be the ones that are going to surprise us over the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what it is. There's just this funny inkling there. Under the leadership of James Vowles, I think they are one of the teams that are going to be on the up. It's a very solid driver lineup for this year. We've had a couple of seasons there with Williams where there's been sort of the one dominant driver, and we've had a couple of guys, with no disrespect to them, just really haven't been up to standard. Carlos coming in just bolsters that team straight away. Even from, I guess, a commercial point of view, for Williams, it puts more eyes on the team. I'm sure that will resonate with better sponsorship deals, etc. But the big thing that I'm really interested in is Alex Albon. How does he perform alongside a guy that is a proven race winner?
He's been in the sport for 10 years.
And there's no pushover.
Yeah. I think he's going to feel the pinch, like you mentioned before. He's been their main driver. He's been the golden boy. He's the one that can pull out the results and the lap times and the qualifying. And now there's someone on equal footing, if not better, some would argue.
From a teammate perspective, he's probably had the easiest run. Look, we know the history with Albon. We know that the Red Bull season there was a lot of pressure on him. He fundamentally cracked under the pressure. But we know that he's a top driver. Has he nipped that issue in the bud? And we don't know, because he hasn't been put under pressure from another teammate. He's come back into Williams and he's had it easy. Yeah.
Do you think he's over the mental scars of his Red Bull tenure?
I like to hope so. I mean, really love Albon. Top bloke. You can tell, like, likable character. You hope that things work out well for him, but this is a big season for him. This is a big make or break season.
Well, this is his time to prove that he deserves to be in Formula One. He's got a proper teammate now to have a crack against. Another former Red Bull driver. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles it.
Yeah.
And same with Carlos. I mean, what if Albon comes in and turns the screws and puts Sainz to the sword?
I guess you could say in his defense, he's new to the team, but I mean, you only give these guys that are proven race winners so long.
Yeah, he's going to be the same situation with Lewis. He's going to be expected to perform straight away. I think he will, though.
Well, this is going to be a very interesting season ahead. Now, two old Red Bull drivers in Williams. Speaking of Red Bull, big season ahead. Last year, just full of a lot of controversy. We had the internal team problems. Christian Horner.
The CEO, Jos Verstappen.
Who runs the team.
Yeah.
Jos Verstappen obviously loves prying up in the media. The big move with Adrian Newey moving off to Aston Martin, and just on-track issues with Sergio. So, big season. Disappointing last year, even though Max won the World Championship, they lost the team constructors to McLaren. But I guess the biggest talking point is Liam Lawson.
The young Kiwi.
Well, it's crazy to think this is essentially the third season of racing for him, but he's never had a proper full preseason or preseason, sorry. Good head on his shoulders. I think he's showed... I think he deserves a seat. He came into RB in both cameos. Sure, he may have not have always been as quick as Yuki, but he was there or thereabouts. And
well, he put him under pressure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and he handled it well. Minimized mistakes. Wasn't afraid to get the elbows out and race hard. We saw his little run-in with Alonso, and you could tell that he wasn't intimidated. I think it bodes well for him. Only 22 years old, so has a bright future ahead of him. Naturally, I think he just has to come into the season. He knows his job, second fiddle, and the main thing is he just needs to take away points from Max's closest rivals.
Yeah, he needs to do what Sergio couldn't do.
Yeah.
Essentially. I think he'll do that. I mean, once he gets up to speed, he might surprise a few people. I'm definitely expecting him to see him on the podium a few times this season, I think, provided Red Bull can give both him and Max the equipment to do it.
Now, Max, is the motivation still there?
Just.
See, I don't think it takes much for Max to be motivated. He just likes to get stuck into a race weekend and just drive the wheels off the car. I think the concern for Max is how long is he going to stay or hang around in the sport? I mean, we sort of forget he's been around since 2015.
Yep.
His 10th year. In my eyes, he's not the type of guy that is worried about records and having a massive legacy and all that type of thing. He just wants to be in a competitive car race. He wants to, and we know he wants to race in GT cars. He wants to do things like Le Mans. I mean, the little rumors that are floating up with him and Alonso doing Le Mans is extremely exciting. That'll be awesome if it does pan out. Has he had enough of the circus, the Formula One circus?
Yeah. Well, we know he definitely does not have time for any of that.
Hey, what are your odds on him being the first driver to be banned from swearing over the radio?
I'll throw a 50 on it.
Throw a 50?
Yeah.
Not a bad bet.
So even things like that, like for someone like Max, that's going to wear thin. That's going to turn him off the sport. He's got his 4 titles. It would not surprise me if you woke up one morning and went, you know what, I've had enough of this.
Yeah,
I'm out. Take it. I've won my titles.
I'm off to do N24 or Spa 24, Le Mans.
Right?
Yeah.
And, Red Bull coming out saying, he's going to stick around till 2026.
Well, isn't his contract to 2028?
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's outer clauses, etc.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the rumours that were tying him to Aston Martin. Yeah. I mean, the whole swearing and all that. I mean, that's garbage.
Yeah.
And Max, I feel like if Max can't be Max, he's not going to want to stay around.
Yep.
I mean, he's made his money.
Definitely one of the class things about Max is it's like what you see is what you get. He's one of the few drivers that he doesn't put on anything for media. He doesn't put anything for the show. It's like...
Well, he tells it how it is, right?
Yeah.
He's straight to the point.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of very Dutch in a way.
But it's refreshing. It's refreshing because...
cool to see.
Because naturally a lot of professional sport now it's all about keeping sponsors happy and being idols to everybody and the kids and so on. And yeah, that is definitely important, but I think we need to find a fine balance of we can't take the characters out of the sport.
It's such an adrenaline-driven sport, and with adrenaline comes raw emotion. You can't be emotionless, man. Like, yeah.
I mean, I don't want the sport to be sterilized, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the history of Formula One, we've seen these moments of aggression or physicality. I mean, God, we've seen people punch on the side of the track, etc. Yeah, we got to make sure that we don't sterilize the sport.
Yeah, just let them be themselves, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People want to follow people like that because they like that themselves. They can relate.
Shows that they're human, right?
Yeah.
It's a human side.
Yeah. You want to turn them into robots?
Yeah.
So then you do that, then you lose, say, the tension between George and Max.
Yeah, I mean, think of the rivalries, right?
Yeah. How do you create rivalries?
Yeah.
Well, they bang wheels on the track and then they get out. No, all good. We're still mates off the track. No, you don't want to hear that. You want to hear them say, this guy's an idiot. And if he does it again, I'm going to put him in the weeds.
You effing dickhead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, definitely. We're getting a little bit too PC.
Yeah, too sterile, man.
Yeah. Look, I think Red Bull, it's a bit of a clean slate this season. I think they can just focus on track now. They've got all those off-track dramas. They're all done and dusted. It's all behind them now, and they can just focus on being competitive for this year and obviously for the new big changes for 2026.
And what if the Red Bull's not competitive? How do you think Max will go?
Well, I mean, every driver has a limit, right? Where they become demotivated.
I guess that rolls into the whole, is he still motivated?
Yeah, but I mean, he'll also drag the absolute hell out of the car. There's a few drivers on the grid where, even if they're not in the most competitive car, they'll they'll pull something out during the season.
Well, yeah, he'll definitely be able to get that extra 10, 20% out of the car.
But look, I don't see Red Bull falling off the pace. I think they're going to win a few races this year. Naturally, last year, when you look at you could say the performance drop-off from the start of the season to the end was concerning. But I think also a lot of it is, Sergio just, look, we don't really know what was going on there, but he just didn't get a handle of the car. That obviously puts a lot of more pressure on Max to perform, and he did an outstanding job in that aspect, essentially single-handedly keeping Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship race to near the end of the season. But I don't think too much changes there. Though, does Max win the championship? Well, I think that really depends on McLaren, in all honesty.
So you're tipping one of the McLaren boys?
Yeah, but it also just depends on their interdynamics of how they're going to handle the season. But I mean, look, if Lawson can be that rear gunner, like he just needs to do the job kind of like Bottas with Hamilton.
Yeah.
Where he's just consistently taking away points from the closest rivals, and they're not taking points off each other. And then I think Max is still favourite to take the title. Moving on is we go into RB. Now, this is where things can get really interesting, because if Lawson doesn't have a great season, are they going to be patient with him like they were with Sergio? I believe they will, but we've got Yuki waiting in the wings there. But I don't see Yuki being obviously like a long-term option for Red Bull. RB's this season, interesting. We've got a rookie coming in with Isaac Hadjar, who's quite lively on the radio, just like Yuki. So
yeah, that'll be an interesting dynamic. I think a good opportunity for Yuki to show he can step up and be a leader, be the calm head in the team. Because, I mean, if you've got two fiery characters, yes, okay, it's good, but it can also be to the detriment of the team. He's in his 5th season now.
What's make or break now for Yuki?
Because if it doesn't work out for Yuki, where does he go?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, there's the Honda tie-up, and we know Honda is moving on to Aston Martin, which I believe is next year, but I still don't see anything opening up for him there. Maybe a reserve role or something, but
well, I'd say that would be his only option.
You would think so. I mean, it's an interesting one, because you kind of felt that if Red Bull saw him as a long-term on-the-books driver, he would have got that seat instead of Liam. But you're right, it's make or break. He needs to essentially lead that team from the front. He needs to get the handle on Hadjar. He needs to beat him consistently and by some type of margin.
Yeah, I think he needs to dominate. He needs to dominate Hadjar this season. He's been there, like I mentioned, 5 years now. He's going to be expected to dominate Hadjar. Hadjar, I think, like you said, is the backup plan to cover either of those two seats if something goes wrong.
Well, the interesting thing is there's a lot of talk and chatter about another Red Bull junior on the sidelines, and that's Lindblad, if I pronounce his last name correctly, who's currently in New Zealand doing extremely well, and if I read correctly, will have enough points on his super license that he will be able to slot straight into a Formula 1 car. Now, they've got a lot of talk about him. Red Bull seems to rate this guy extremely highly, so there's a lot of pressure on Hadjar to come in and perform, because we know what Red Bull is capable of with their young drivers. They are ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless, exactly. I mean, he comes in with a bit of pedigree. He finished, second?
Second F2 last year. I mean, bit of bad luck at the start. I believe he stalled it on the line in the final race.
Yeah.
But it's always an interesting thing. Like, I mean, you can see these drivers that are extremely passionate and fiery on the radio. Sometimes that anger can be channeled into better performance, but quite often it can be channeled into overperformance, making mistakes, etc. So it's going to be interesting to see how Hadjar performs under pressure.
And to be honest, I don't think Red Bull will take too kindly to him carrying on. To a certain extent, you express your frustrations in the car when things aren't going well.
Just don't swear, Michael.
Yeah. Just don't swear.
Just don't swear. The key is you don't swear in the car.
Yeah.
That's number one rule.
Yeah. Again, come in, learn the ropes, understand how the team dynamics work, and be close to Yuki. And then, in my opinion, I think Yuki is probably going to get moved on, which then allows Hadjar to step up, brings, what did you say his name was?
Lindblad. I keep thinking it's Limbold, but it's Arvind Lindblad.
Yeah.
I'm probably absolutely butchering his name right now.
Yep. So that opens up that seat for him. Then you've got two young drivers there in that seat ready to take the next step into Red Bull later on down the track. If Yuki can't perform this year, we won't see him in a full-time drive next year.
Well, I can't see him anywhere else.
No, exactly.
Nothing else that opens up. Like probably maybe a reserve role, but he's 24. I just don't think he would go back into something like that. I think he'll probably move on into something like WEC. But we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. Now, speaking of the Honda connection with regard to Yuki and sort of rumours of maybe that's where he could end up, which I kind of doubt, is Aston Martin. I think Aston Martin this season, nothing much changes. I think all eyes are on for 2026.
Yeah, it's same for me.
Newey comes in. Can he start yet, or is he still on gardening leave?
I think he can officially start with the team. I think it was 3rd of March.
Yep.
Yes, 3rd of March he starts. So he wouldn't have had technically no input into this year's car. Will be interesting to see though, because traditionally they start really strong and then fall away towards the back of the season because they can't seem to keep up with the upgrades.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how they progress over the length of a season. If Newey will have any input into the car for the second half of the season. Because surely they'll want a little bit of momentum, you would imagine, going into 2026, where all the focus is going to be.
What about Stroll Jr.? What's he got to do? He's got to start doing something.
Yeah, I mean,
look, a lot of people seem to think that he's untouchable there because Papa Stroll is the main man. But at some point, the patience is going to run out with Stroll Jr.
Well, surely. It's a business, right?
Yeah.
And your goal is to win championships.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, he's definitely there for the whole of the season. I can't see him replacing. I mean, they have a pretty decent driver just sitting on the sidelines with Filip Drugovich.
Yeah, and a lot of people rate.
He's very highly rated. But then we've also got Fernando Alonso sitting there who's winding up his career, unless he just wants to keep driving. But he's contracted to the end of next year, I believe. And I think he is anticipating a Newey rocket ship for 2026 as his final hurrah.
Well, that would be the expectation, right? You bring in Adrian Newey and the car's going to be an absolute weapon. Is it though? Or is it going to take a few seasons, the new regs, to get everything ironed out and then...
Well, this is the thing. I think too many of us just sort of think it's a given. Newey just goes somewhere, designs a car, and it's a rocket ship. But, I mean, that's just not how Formula One works itself out.
Because, let's be honest, I mean, Stroll, yeah. I've never seen someone who looks like they don't want to be there.
Well, yeah, but I think, demotivated, or is it pressure? I mean, he just needs to come into the season, clean slate, forgets what's happened, and he just needs to find his enjoyment again.
Yeah, I think so.
Look, we all think it's a cushy ride because his old man is the boss, but I don't think there's any cushy ride for Junior here. I think there's a lot of pressure on him from the old man, and I don't think he's going to get everything his own way. He has so far, of course, but he needs to bring up some consistency. He needs to be challenging Fernando, or at least be alongside Fernando.
I think that's the biggest thing too, is not having the experience of, say, someone like Fernando. Is it really probably falls on Alonso's shoulders to develop that team and that car?
Mm.
And is Alonso made to look better than he probably is because of having a teammate like Stroll at the moment? That's
the thing, isn't it? I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. Look, I think Fernando definitely isn't as quick, say, on a one-lap outright pace. He's probably, a little bit slower than what he used to be, but I think he makes up that with his consistency, his racecraft, his experience. He's a clever driver, very clever driver. But yeah, I think next year is the swan song. If that Aston Martin isn't competitive, I think he'll definitely walk away.
Yeah, agree.
But think of it like this. He won his first world title 20 years ago, 2005.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Insanity to think there's been 20 years since he won his first world title. Obviously, he went back-to-back, 2006. Hasn't won a race, I think, since, 2012?
Yeah.
So imagine he wins a race. I mean, that is an absolute insane time gap.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's still got it.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, but I think the lack of performance from Stroll has definitely made him look...
Just flattered him a little bit.
Yeah,
possibly.
Flattered him a little bit, yeah. Given the right car, yeah, of course he can still win races, man. You see his racecraft in races, man. He's got all that experience, and you can tell when he races.
Yeah. Aston, I mean, realistically, focus 2026.
Yeah, but I think for this year, just consistency. if you can have a consistent year, you're going to be, okay, you're not going to be probably in the top 4 teams, but you're going to be somewhere around 5th or 6th. Surely. You've got to be aiming.
Come 2026, 2027, definitely they are expecting bigger results. I mean, the money that has been invested, have you seen the pictures of the factory?
Yeah.
Crazy amount of money being invested in there. So definitely all the cards are on the table for them next year. Hopefully Newey can produce some magic in the engineering department, and perhaps we see Aston on the top step, but we'll only find out as the time comes. So covered 5 teams, and to be honest, very interesting dynamics for all of them. I mean, bar Aston. I think Aston's probably like, we're going to see pretty much of what we saw last year. But Ferrari, Williams, Red Bull, Racing Bulls, really interesting dynamics. It's going to be great to see how they progress over the year, particularly Hamilton. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Be interesting to see where Red Bull are at the start of the season. For mine, the Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon is going to be a really interesting one. And yeah, I mean...
Well, let's hope we don't hear Albon on the radio. Carlos races me so hard.
Yeah.
And we don't go and delve into that dark chapter of Albon's F1 career. So we'll see how that one pans out.
As far as Ferrari, I'm expecting them to be fighting
for wins.
One of the top 2 teams come the first half of the season. How good would that be? Lewis first, though. Lewis has got to be first. I don't think he will.
Even if Charles came first and Lewis was second, I think Lewis would be pretty happy. I think it would be almost like a repeat of, do you remember when Rosberg and Hamilton ended up on the top podium after the battle in, was it Bahrain? I think it was.
Yeah.
Was that like the first 1-2 Mercedes had?
It was the first race of the season.
It was, right?
Yeah.
And that enjoyment of racing and finishing a 1-2. That's how I sort of picture that first podium. But
could you imagine if Lewis wins though? Charles, he's going to be like, oh, shit. All right.
Well, I guess I think it comes down to like, was it pure domination or not? I mean, if the battling is really close and it's just a matter of a few seconds, I don't think there's going to be too much going on there, but it'll be a decent wake-up call. You'll have to be on the limit week in, week out. But let's see.
Well, thanks for tuning in for episode 1. It was nice to finally get it out of the way. Make sure you join us for the second one. We'll see you then.
Peace out.